everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today is the beginning of the winter solstice, and I don't really know what that means, but I know that it's today. So happy winter solstice, everybody. For those who don't know, that has something to do with astrology, which my astrology babes out there on the YouTube can probably give you a whole video about, but that's not what this episode is about today. It's about the complete beginner's guide. Basically, how I got to where I am with all the information that I know and apply to my life currently, and how it really just connected from where I was, which was completely believing basically blindly in Western medicine, which is how I grew up. I'm doing this for my listeners because I know a lot of the people who tune into my podcast and my YouTube, basically just talking to my friends and family now, but I found that you guys are very new to holistic health and have trouble branching the idea of such radical views versus Western medicine or quote-unquote science. I know a lot of people will associate Western medicine with quote-unquote real science, but science changes all the time, and there are so many reasons why it's wrong to associate those two exclusively and to not acknowledge the deep-rooted knowledge and credibility that holistic medicine has as well. So this is a little bit about my experience with the bridge between the two, and I really just wanted to share that with you guys to maybe help close some of those gaps. So let's start at the beginning. So I used to call myself atheist growing up, and I just did not connect well with religion. Even though as I was exposed to it, I wasn't brought up religious. I wasn't really raised by any particular belief system. My mom kind of always let us choose our own paths, which I really liked. So I don't think any set of beliefs, atheist or religious, were really imposed on me. Just for a little background, I was and am a very fact-driven person. Now I can express this better because I'm older, but I don't believe in putting your power of a human being and spiritual energy into somebody else's hand, which some might refer to as Jesus's hand or God's hand, because I believe that's my power, and I believe that my life on earth matters. It's not just the life after death that matters. So those were some big points for me when I was younger, and also still today. I'm just able to word it a lot better today. But basically, I really liked proven facts, and anyone who knew me back then can absolutely confirm that this was such a large part of my belief system. And I also never knew that something like spirituality could exist. I always thought it had to be religion or atheism. But when I was 18, one of my cousins that was a couple years older than me and in the military had come home that year, and I hadn't really met her prior to that. Our families were just not that close, but I was reconnecting with that side of my family around that time, so that's when I got to meet her. And she and I instantly connected on spiritual values. Like, I didn't even know these things existed when I was that age, and the things that she would say and how she could feel energy or like feel her intuition and stuff. She basically explained all that to me, and I instantly resonated with it. That's a really big part of why I wanted to start a podcast, because I think it would be so beautiful to be that person for somebody and just to have knowledge and experience laid out that you might not have prior been exposed to, and it just really resonating hard. Like that is my mission here. Because what she did for me was so huge, and it really gave me a place to help me align who I was. And so from 18 on, that's kind of when I started to get into like self-spiritualism and to really pay attention to how I felt about things and situations. And that led me to have a really great relationship with my intuition, and that grew over like 3 years now, or 4. Unfortunately, shortly after we cultivated this connection, she moved out of state, and our stars were just not aligning. So I kind of had to just take what I could from that experience and turn it into something that would really benefit me. At around this time also, that she moved, I was getting out of a very significant relationship for the main purpose that I felt like I wasn't being allowed, quote unquote, to explore who I was, and that was very important for me at that time because I was really starting to learn who I was outside of the environment that I had grown up in my whole life. And so both of those things together just really led me to start exploring on my own. And at first, I think this means to me to have my own space, so I'm able to thrive instead of survive in somebody else's environment that they've created for themselves. And being out in nature was a big thing for me at that time too. And creation. I started my first jewelry business. Well, it wasn't really a business. It was more of a early executed idea, we'll just say. But that's when I first started really creating a lot, making art again since like middle school. And that really felt great. A year of creation and transformation, that was for sure 2 years ago for me during COVID. So during this time, what I really tried to do was just listen to my gut feeling about things. And there were some experiences that I had experienced with another person that didn't logically make sense at all, but it felt right, and I couldn't explain anything else besides there was a feeling that I got and I knew that it was right. And this person told me that they felt the same way, and like we had met in a really bizarre way. So during this time I was going through some really interesting life events, but I really had to trust them, and that was not an easy thing to do, but it was definitely needed and beautiful and such an amazing part of my life. During this time, there wasn't a moment that I would let myself ignore a gut feeling about a person or a situation. And I'm even learning now that you have a thinking mind and you have a mind that is your intuition. For example, I was brushing my teeth last night, and in the midst of me brushing my teeth, my brain went, "You should floss tonight also." And then immediately, my thinking mind was like, "Oh no, I don't really feel like flossing tonight. I could just floss a different night." And I realized that in that moment, that secondary voice trying to talk over that intuition is just reaffirming to myself that I shouldn't listen to my intuition. And that was terrible. I was like, now I have to floss my teeth. And this is such a small example, but it's really important to acknowledge what that feeling feels like when you get an intuitive thought. And no, I don't know why that came to me that I had to floss my teeth last night out of every night, but I've come to trust that voice because I know that it wants the best for me, that it will help me be the best version of myself. So that's a definite big thing that you can do, is to practice learning to recognize what your intuition sounds and feels like to you. Somebody told me this forever ago, and I have stuck by it since. They said that your intuition, like how to tell the difference between intuition and anxiety. Intuition will come to you in a calm feeling. Like there won't be any thoughts that provoke it. There won't be any negative feelings with it when you have it. It's just placed in your mind with no other predispositions. While an anxious thought comes to you with anxious energy immediately. Like as you're having the thought, you're feeling anxious. Because sometimes you can get caught in a loophole then after you try to start recognizing your intuition. Is this intuition, or am I just feeling crazy right now? And you can usually tell by how it feels to have that thought placed upon you. So yeah, practicing how to recognize your intuition and listen to it is a huge thing. Looping that into my next point, there is a book that I read earlier this year called Master the Day by Alexander Hayne. And oh my god, he is amazing. And he also makes some videos on YouTube. That's how I found him actually. And in his book, he inserted this quote that I will never forget, and it basically says, you don't figure out your purpose by knowing exactly what you want. You build a house brick by brick, and then the brick will eventually become a house, and you will have more visions as you go. Basically, bricks being life experience and life choices, and the house being your ultimate purpose. So as you go through life, a lot of people will pressure you, oh, what do you want your house to look like? You know, metaphorical house, aka your purpose. Oh, what do you want your house to be? Oh, where do you want it? Oh, do you want it 1 story, 2 story? You want it to have a basement? You want to have a red door? And you're like, I don't even know how to build a house. And a lot of us don't. And sometimes we'll bullshit the answer, like, oh, I want a 2-story house on Cleveland Road. People will often categorize you based on that answer when really all you need to be focused on doing throughout your life is learning how to build the house, and by building it brick by brick. In these scenarios, each brick represents small intuitive choices that you take. 3 years ago, when I was being introduced to spirituality, that was a brick. Me moving into my own place, that's a brick. Me feeling pulled toward nature, so spending more time in nature, brick. Me meeting this person that helped me build my spiritual self a lot, brick. You add so many little bricks that you start seeing a frame, and I think that's where I'm at right now. Do I know exactly what my purpose is in life? No. I don't think anybody really does until they have all the bricks, which is a lot of life experience, and that takes a long time to learn and understand and all these things. But I do have a sense of a bigger picture, and that is what I want to share. And that is how I got here. That is how I got really interested in holistic health and functional nutrition and energy healing, meditation, and all of it really is just following those little bricks, and then you will start to see a frame and maybe even a roof or what color you want your door to be, and it all just takes time. This goes with anything. Honestly, I don't really understand why people are so obsessed with knowing what your house will look like when they haven't even built theirs. But yeah, that's a little bit about how I got down this little rabbit hole, and I can definitely tell that it's something that is going to stay very important in my life, and I don't know anything further, and that is okay. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode, and just remember that you are the prism. You are the fucking prism. You can create the light you are given, and the light you create into any rainbow you want. You are the prism. Have a good evening and happy holidays, guys. Mwah.